Hello and welcome everyone to Nutritional Choices That Matter, where today you're going to learn how to prepare a healthy plate that meets both your blood sugar and hormone balancing needs. My name is Andrea Anderson and I'm a nutrition consultant. And for those of you that may not have seen the first video yet, I'd like to just take a moment to reintroduce myself. I've been in practice since 2018. And on a personal note, I'm actually a breast cancer survivor where I was diagnosed in 2015 while I was 30 weeks pregnant. So, for obvious reasons, I was kind of thrown into a tailspin in trying to deal with my disease, but also perhaps even more crippling was my need to try to figure out how to change my diet and lifestyle. And I look back on that and actually think that changing my diet was almost more difficult than fighting cancer. And that means that for 9 months, I was really in the throes of overwhelm and fear and despair in a lot of ways, trying to decipher and figure out what all of this information overload really meant at the end of the day. So today, I really want to share some of my key tips, some of my key learnings along the way to hopefully instill in you even, hey, it doesn't have to be so complicated. It can be simple. And so I hope you get some really good tips and some encouragement along the way today to know that it doesn't have to be complicated. And there is a way to just take that step out or go deeper in your health journey after seeing today's video. So make sure you have a pen and paper. Make sure you have your favorite beverage. Obviously, you can stop and replay certain sections of this. So let this be a tool or a resource for you to come back to if you need. I will be giving you templates that will come if you click the link, if you will. And so make sure you download those. They'll come to you via email so that you can print them out and use them either during this video, or you can come back to them at another time that's more convenient. Okay, great. So welcome everyone, and thank you for being here. Our learning objectives today is threefold again. Number one, I want to explain how our food choices affect our health, how those or what types of foods we should be eating more of, and also ultimately how to create that healthy plate. As we dive into it, this quote had a pretty big impact on connecting things for me. Like what am I doing? What am I focusing on? What am I prioritizing in my life? And when I look at this, it is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. That's when I started I have to kind of reset some of my own priorities to put my health first. Let's take a moment to look at the current stats. I had put these stats together at another point in time, and I come back to them because I find that they speak volumes about where we are as a society, if you will, but also on a global scale. When you look at the World Health Organization's comment, even as of 2021, non-communicable diseases, chronic non-communicable diseases are the number one cause of death worldwide. 41 million people they reported in 2021 due to passing on due to non-communicable diseases. So even if you were to look at this pie chart, you'll see communicable diseases, airborne, if you will, are 4.8% of the total. So statistically speaking, 88% of all US deaths are preventable non-communicable diseases. Well, what are those diseases? Well, it's the cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and chronic respiratory diseases as well. And it's just impactful. So while you can look at that and think, wow, tragic, but it is very tragic. But the good news is we can do something about it to get our health back on track and to change habits. It's really that simple at times, even though habit changing is one of the most difficult things that we have to address. Focusing then on our standard American diet, and most of us know it's not the best quality food, okay? And I know that there is a justification for convenience or cost reasons. People have, of course, leaned on this type of eating style. But I want to encourage you to understand that we have to make some shifts in our own day to day if we're going to start getting our health back on track, and also setting the right type of eating patterns for our children. This statement, though, I think might give you a pause a pause to really reflect on this. But I've worked at a food company many years ago, and I saw firsthand, and I didn't connect it back then, but I certainly do now, that nutrient depleted foods that we see on the grocery shelves or in fast food or chain restaurants are formulated in labs to overstimulate our taste buds, to get us addicted to the processed foods and textures. Wow. So you can understand why it's so hard to give up that pizza, give up that ice cream, give up that, hamburger or your favorite fries or all those foods that we have consumed as just Americans, right? And it's not by accident, it's by design to keep you addicted, to keep you coming back. Okay. And those ingredients are the artificial flavors and ingredients, which are known carcinogens, conventional dairy and meats, which are loaded with growth hormones and antibiotics. Okay. So you've got to even pause on that one to think, well, they're loading up the cattle or the animal proteins with hormones, growth hormones, and then I'm consuming that meat, so I'm getting more hormones. And then you wonder why we're dominant in estrogen, for example. It's crazy. High fructose corn syrup, which destroys the gut, has proven impact to children's attention span and connections to ADD. Overly processed refined grains, pro-inflammatory hydrogenated oils, and on, and GMO ingredients, which the body doesn't even recognize as food, okay? So what happens over time? If we're eating this way as a pattern, this high fat, again, inflammatory fat, nutrient deficient, inflammatory foods, well, you're essentially creating massive acidity, like heat and chemicals and inflammation and swelling and sluggishness. The body is trying to process what you're putting in, and it's, for the most part, doesn't really recognize it as food, or there's too many toxins and chemicals that the body is getting. Your immune system is overwhelmed with seeing that food as a foreign invader and trying to attack it and remove it from the body. Well, the immune system is also responsible for fighting viruses and parasites and disease. And so you get to the point where if we're constantly putting in poor nutrition, we're getting, hit by toxins or environmental pollutants, and we've got a compromised digestion or a liver that's very sluggish for a variety of reasons, our body ultimately starts hitting what's called kind of this toxic load tipping point. We can no longer detox at a fast enough rate than what you're putting into the system. So you're bringing in way more toxicity than your body can deplete and eliminate. And that's when we start seeing chronic illness show up. The immune is overwhelmed. That's where we see, for example, autoimmune disorders, where the immune system is so overwhelmed that it starts attacking the tissues and the organs. And that's what contributes to more pain and ultimately, and many other symptoms. But ultimately, we start to see, our health deteriorating. And that's this immune overwhelm phenomena that's going on in the body. So this fight or flight mode keeps us in that perpetual compromised digestion and immune overdrive. And ultimately, again, we have an immune system that starts to lose its overall effectiveness in fighting disease, that's what it should be focusing on, as opposed to removing food toxins out of the body. So two key takeaways I would leave you with this topic then, or regarding this dietary pattern that we're eating. It leads to profound changes in our metabolic function, which leads to inflammation. Inflammation is a direct factor in obesity, blood sugar disorders, cardiovascular disease, and other degenerative conditions, including cancer. And I've worked with a lot of clients over the last couple of years too, who are struggling with autoimmune, a few breast cancer, digestive disorders and whatnot. And when you peel back the onion, it is, and it's even in my own learning, I really started seeing like, wow, this is stemming from chronic inflammation. So how do we get the body back into the proper balance between it's, too acidic and there's not enough alkalinity, which we're getting alkalinity, the cooling. Okay, put the flame out. That's coming from the vegetables and the fruits and the nuts, and just very nutrient dense cooling foods. So are we ready to get started with whole foods? I'm sure you are. That's why you're here, right? This model is, I found to be super helpful when I started connecting the dots with why is it so hard to change habits? And this eating for health model is really looking at it from 4 different levels. Okay. You've got the level 1, level 2, where you're eating for pleasure. You're eating for energy. You're eating comfort foods, sugar, fats, treats, hasty meals. You might be eating at your desk. You might be eating standing up in the kitchen. Everything's a rush. And we know that in that compromised state of constant rush, your digestion is not doing its job because you're in a fight or flight all the time. And usually what happens then is, people that spend years eating in this pleasure and energy and fast food and sugars and treats and all that, which that was where I was for many years, then we, by de facto, get to a need to eat for recovery, where we've been diagnosed with some sort of an illness. The doctor might say, hey, you got to work on your diet, or you yourself realize, wow, I've got to make some serious changes. And the diet becomes more restrictive, more reductive, very specific foods, that are usually very alkaline too. The cooling, the greens, the fruit, the dark fruits, the dark vegetables, everything is just designed to really help cool and detox the body. Ultimately, though, what we want to do is get to this level 4, which is, we are eating whole foods, clean, organic, nutrient dense foods, and we are in a peaceful state when we eat. We're conscious of what we're putting into our body. We're more mindful. And it's really just to recognize the connection between the food we're eating and how it serves the body, if that makes sense. And so we want to have that connection and just that consciousness around what we're eating and the peaceful state, so that we're really able to digest it, to use it, to absorb it, and assimilate it in the body. So I want to have you consider this one simple question, and I encourage you even just to maybe pause the video, give yourself a minute, and really think about, what's your why? Why are you here today to listen to this message? What brought you here? Why is eating in a more nutritious way so important to you? And spend a minute, just jotting that down. Why now? Why is it important to you? What's at stake for you if you don't make these changes? And then even go so far as creating a couple different Post-its, maybe put them around the house as an exercise for yourself, so that when you're feeling like, this will never work, you've got those little reminders already for you to constantly visually lean on for your own motivation, so that you understand, hey, this is greater than the current situation. I have to stay on track. Okay, so take a moment, pause the video, and write down, what is your why? And I hope that that was a useful exercise for you. And let me just encapsulate this. The bottom line, when it comes to what should I eat, and I like I said, I spent 9 months almost having daily meltdowns around, can I eat this? Can I eat that? And then not really having anything that would taste good, But the bottom line is, you want to select foods that are organic, anti-inflammatory, anti-trigger. So we're talking about the glutens and the casein, like the milk protein and the grain proteins, that can be very triggering for people's compromised digestion. You want low glycemic, which means we're not creating a huge wild blood sugar spike that your immune system, again, has to respond to. And nutrient dense. That's it. So that's what my food list entails. It hits all those boxes. I want to make sure I'm preventing any wild blood sugar swings or creating excess sugar. I'm removing trigger foods that could create some sort of food sensitivity or allergy, which is going to drive my immune response to produce antibodies and then more inflammation. We want to eat a variety of colorful foods. So we want the antioxidant rich foods, because those are what your liver specifically, I mean, the whole body needs antioxidants, but the liver is just craving those antioxidants, the rainbow foods, the rainbow colored vegetables, because that's how it detoxes all of the chemicals and used up hormones out of the body. And also correcting any nutrient deficiencies in the body, especially when you're trying to balance hormones. We typically lean on the omega-3s and the magnesium and B vitamin rich foods. Now, again, I always say, focus on food first. We don't need to supplement with a bunch of, vitamins, because what we're trying to do is create new habits, not solve it with a pill, which has traditionally been our health model for a long time. So you want to focus on food and then augment with select supplements that your doctor or health coach or nutritionist can advise, but definitely food first. Okay. We don't want to walk around with 60 pills, because that's not we don't want to add that burden into the system trying to break it down. So my golden rules: number one, keep it basic and simple. One meal at a time. We don't need to worry about, oh my gosh, forever, for 100 years, I have to do this. No, it doesn't, you don't need to look at it that way yet. One meal at a time. Right now we're making small shifts, right? Focus on breakfast. Maybe it's a breakfast that you want to, master your breakfasts. Maybe you want to master your lunch. Maybe you want to master your dinner. Whatever it is, focus on just one, okay? And get a couple of foods in rotation, a couple of meals that are, food list approved, if you want to look at it that way. And those are your rotation, and start there and master it. And then when you feel confident, you move on to the next meal. And that was really the secret to my success. I just did I said, I don't want to worry about anything else. I'm just going to do this one. And then once I got it, I'll move to the next, and then the next. And that's how the mastery of habit formed. And that was my new routine. Number two, food serves a purpose now. It's for healing. It's not to serve as an emotional crutch or a warm blanket, or maybe that hug that you didn't get. You don't want to look at your food that way, because that's where bad habits start, right? And I did this. So that's why I'm saying I really understood. I was like, oh, wow. Friday nights, single woman. And I was back in the day, I'd make a pizza, or I'd order a pizza. I'd have a glass of wine and a pint of Ben and Jerry's. And that was my Friday night treat. I had a hard week working 80 hours, and this was my reward to myself. And in hindsight, I look at it now like, wow, that was a reward. What I was doing was like not really the intended reward. I was literally feeding my body junk and contributing to, at the time, my breast cancer growth at the time, so it's just something to be thoughtful about. Okay. Doesn't have to be forever, but I'm just saying, if you're trying to change a habit, this is a really important element or principle to really think about. And then number 3, eat a digestive enzyme with every meal. Because we do have compromised immune system, having that extra support in a supplement form is great, because it's just going to give you extra enzymes to help you break down your food and, again, use it and absorb it. So what does a healthy plate look like? Very simply, it is half your plate are veggies, quarter plate protein. Quarter plate can be more veggies or a little bit of fruit, or even starches, like, again, gluten-free starches, which are on the food list. Okay. And then you just sprinkle with a little bit of spices and herbs, and then add some healthy fats, like, the extra virgin olive oil, or a little bit of avocado. And don't be afraid, to add texture and density to your food. And by the end of the day, just keep it simple with one reinforcing point: quality matters. Okay. So we want to have, as best as we can, choosing organic, wild caught proteins for optimal health. And I know it's really tough because food prices have been rising. I totally understand that. But at some point, we have to connect to the principle here that we are making an investment in our health, just like we invest in, a new bag, or, we're buying a new car. There's nothing more valuable than how we invest in our health. Okay. And by investing in our health and kind of modeling that, I value myself and my health and my wellness, especially if you have children, or even, other nieces and nephews, they're going to see how you treat yourself in a kind way, and how you invest in your health in a selfless way in a lot of ways, but still self-preserving. And they'll want to model that behavior too. So I want to give you an example of how I approach one meal at a time. So I take my food list, which is here on the left-hand side, with my proteins and my veggies and my fruits, healthy fats, beverages, and boosters, example here. And I just drop them into the plate. Okay. So I'm looking at half the plate, quarter of the plate, quarter of the plate. And I just pick and choose, drag and drop almost, right? Very simple. And if I do that, for example, if I really wanted to, get fancy, I'll even, add a bone broth as a beverage instead of water. I'll add maybe a 4-ounce grass-fed filet. And again, from a serving size standpoint, we just want the size of a deck of cards for your protein from a serving size. Okay. And vegetables, you can throw in salad. I've got, some, maybe even more veggies as the quarter veggie. I might add some steamed Brussels sprouts with a little bit of butter and sea salt, maybe add a little bit of nuts or seeds, or maybe some sauerkraut, and just drizzle a little bit with some extra virgin olive oil. Delicious. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. It's just, once you start combining things, it actually takes on its own taste and satisfaction, just by you combining foods and different textures, just like you would have achieved by, eating fast food. Close anyway. So I want to invite you now to take time for action. Okay. So again, you can grab the link that I'm going to provide, that you fill out, and then you'll get an email with the handouts for today. But this is a time for action. So if you have the handouts, or you want to download and, again, come back to the video, that's great. The next few slides, I'm just going to walk you through an example, time to practice, just for you to take what you've learned a little bit and now just go through the motions of pen to paper, because that's when we really solidify for ourselves how to do it. And then we understand, like, wow, it's not that hard. Okay. So here we are. We got time for action. Again, take your time, come back to this video, but it's as simple as taking out your one meal at a time, picking the foods that you want, focus on what meal you want to do. If it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, which one do you want to master? And put in the foods, okay, from the food list. All right. And then just choose to make 1 or 2 meals. Okay. Use the little form, and you can just plop things in. And 1 or 2 meals, 1 or 2 dinners, 1 or 2 lunches, whatever the case may be, that are your, healthy food approved list. And there you go. It's as simple as that. Okay. Keeping it simple. The actions then you can take this week: committing to doing, decide on the number of meals that you want to make, right? Adding it into your new rotation. Follow the guidelines and the golden rules. Number 2, get organized. All right. Get your weekly shopping list. Use the sample 3-day meal plan I'm also giving you, and recipes that you can access on my website as your jumpstart. So again, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just grab the resources and just follow along. And then 3, just be prepared to understand that, life will happen this week. It's not going to go flawlessly. There's no such thing as perfection, and that's okay. You're looking at this as a long-term investment in your life. So, a bump in a road here and a bump in a road there is not a game changer. It's really more about you connecting with that reality will happen. So how are you going to plan for success? And how can you be prepared to get back up if you're off schedule? And that's really where consistency has to come into play. And that's really where you pivot from giving up to like, no. It's not that hard. Don't do that. Don't overwhelm myself. I'm going to get back on track. All I got to do is add more vegetables to my plate, or maybe add some berries to my breakfast. Simple things like that. Okay. Definitely does not have to be overcomplicated. And remember, your thoughts, your mindset is going to make a big difference in terms of how you inspire your healthy lifestyle and your healthier eating that you're trying to achieve. So don't worry if you mindlessly eat. Just, again, the point has to be made. Just get back up, get back on track. Okay. Don't let it go into the wayside where you're focused on, oh, it's not going to work, I give up. You really have to focus on mindset and staying consistent with what you're trying to create, which is a new healthy habit. Healthy changes do not happen overnight. Okay. So you got to give yourself some grace not to have perfection. And again, the most important thing, just keep going in the right direction and you will get there. So again, friends, grab the link here below if you want the materials that were referenced in today's session. And in this link, again, you also get a 3-day meal plan, like a sample meal plan that can help you have some inspiration of some different food combinations that you might want to try. And as always, you can go to my website and I have other nutrition resources and recipes for you. Very simple, just to get you started in the right direction. So I want to say thank you again, everyone, for being here. And I'm hoping that what I shared with you today gives you some very simple tips and tools that are going to continue to help you evolve in your health journey and taking that next step to start turning your diet around. If I can do anything for you, please reach out. If you'd like to work one-on-one in a private setting to have a more customized or individualized plan, I also invite you to reach out via email, and I'd be happy to schedule a call. All right. Thanks again, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.